Welcome to Metal, and that's the keeper image right there.
Okay, so we're again in a kitchen situation. We're dragging the shutter for that background exposure outdoors, out the window, and we're using strobe for the interior knife as a subject. We're going to turn off the strobe right now and show you just that background exposure. So that's without any strobe at all. We experimented a little bit by changing our shutter speed. We're at an 1/8 right now. We went to a 1/3. Felt like that was a little bit too bright. We went to a 1/15. Felt like it was too dark. So somewhere between a 1/15 and a 1/3 was our target area, and we decided on an 1/8. So you can see that's our decision on the background. Now we turn on the strobe, angle the light to give us a nice shape and form. It comes from the side just like it did with the mixed lighting shot, right? Let's turn that on. Now we are set at an 1/8 of a second. We are only going to change our f-stop to create a depth of field that we need, and also that's going to change the look of our background too, won't it?
It will. Some might go on to the blinds there, but we're positioning the light, as you'll see in the other video, to the side and behind, because we don't want to light the blade. See how we're getting nice form rendering on the vegetables and the fruit, but nothing on the blade. We're going to be lighting the blade independently with a reflector.
So we put up a reflector, and basically that's what the books, refer to the books, talks about that family of angles. Angle in, angle out, incident angle. These are all words that you're going to hear through photography lessons and in your readings about how to find that reflected light source. The bigger the light source, the easier it is to reflect into the knife. So if you're using a small fill card, you may have a hard time hitting the target, so to speak, you think?
And we're using that same piece of foam core that we scored for the other assignments. It's standing up, and as Steve said, the family of angles, ricocheting. If you've ever been to the pool hall, you know the ball that strikes the rail comes off at the same angle, so it's angle of incidence, angle of reflection. Now we positioned it so the blade is fully filled, nice and even. First thing you might notice, the blade's kind of dirty, but you'll be using a new knife, and it'll be nice and clean and bright.
Yeah, you'll be using a clean knife, no fingerprints. Let's angle that. You want to angle that or use a smaller reflector. Okay, so we see the difference. We don't quite, maybe we won't quite hit the entire family of angles in this one. It's only part of the knife will be show reflection. That's not that attractive. Metal needs to look sharp and clean. It needs to have a beautiful family of angles that lights up the whole blade.
And as Steve was saying, if we angle the fill card differently, the knife is not as bright, so we can control the balance between the brightness of the knife and, in this case, our vegetables and fruit. And you're free to choose. Steve got some nice produce for this, but you can use vegetables if you'd like, but keep them in the same family. It just looks a little better from composition. Mixing fruits and vegetables don't always work, but nice rounded shapes. Having the tangerines in the foreground works great because of the texture. Get a lot of form rendering on that.
Yeah, I chose colorful items that I thought were easy to work with. For me, green vegetables, kind of loose and sloppy sometimes. You have to keep them wet, and I didn't want those on my set. I thought that as easy as potatoes were to work with, that they're a little bit dull in color. So you just changed the reflector, right?
Change the reflector. Let's see if the knife blade's a little darker. Just changing the angle. See, we started to
look at that change.
We're showing us how dirty it actually is.
Look
And
at
that's just changing the angle in relationship to the light.
that's a really, I love seeing little subtle changes like that. This is one of those assignments that subtlety can really make a big difference between, you know, that beautiful, elegant, expert photograph versus the image, you know, that just says, hey, I got it lit, but I didn't really know the difference between subtlety and just, you know, just getting it done.
Now this is the fill card back in the position we started with. One of the points Steve brought up, which is really important in this assignment, he was talking about leafy green vegetables. Also, sometimes you'll see still lifes like this where they've sliced an orange or a lime or an apple, but over the course of setting up, they start to dry out. And so you have to be careful to make sure you brush them with a little bit of glycerin and water, but many times your first try, it's overdone and they look too shiny. So keeping the fruit or vegetables whole like this is good for this first attempt.
Absolutely. It's a picture about a knife. It's learning how to light metal. It's not a food styling shot. So make it easy on yourself. You know, if you think you had a great, beautiful knife image, and then you want to take it forward and cut that tangerine in half and really spice it up a little bit, go for it.
Sounds good. Experimentation is the key. I mentioned it before. We want to see the progression. You want to build this. Hitting the sweet spot every time is very difficult and way too much pressure. And it's improvisation.
Okay.
All right.
Let's show them how we did it.
See you in the next video.